Hi, this is Ed. I'm in San Diego, and our very special guest today, again, is Ron Cooper, the Cooper Culture. And he and I have had an ongoing series of dialogues, really interesting stuff that's applicable to business people, not only US, but worldwide, male, female, anything. And the whole idea is to become better at what you're doing. And this discussion is going to have information from Ron's past and how in the military and how that applies perhaps to the business scene today. Let's welcome Ron Cooper.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate it. It's always great to be with you and your listening and viewing audience. I do want to talk about a little bit of my military, which, quite honestly, is very foundational to me. It has direct application to the boardroom, families, and the principles of which I'll be speaking. What I'm going to talk about today relates to teamwork, camaraderie, in purpose, vision, goals, those type matters that can work together when we all have that shared purpose. And for your viewers, Ed, we're recording this a few weeks, was maybe 3 weeks after Operation Midnight Hammer. But I want to make the correlation of the May 17th, 1972 mission, the military, the precision, the planning, and the discipline we have that is very representative of everyone in the military, most recently with the highly publicized, if that can be an appropriate term, Operation Midnight Hammer, which whether you supported what the military did or not, it was a very successful mission. Camaraderie, the planning, the precision, the discipline, everything that went into that. So, Ed, I want to kind of preface what I'm saying with those attributes that I believe have direct application to the business people and, for that matter, family members who are listening to us. But very briefly, May 17th or March 17th of 1972, I had a mission, and I'm referring to Vietnam. I flew the F-4s. I'm 22 years Air Force. I flew the F-4s and was stationed in Vietnam at the time. In this particular day, we had a mission that was a very high priority to attack a heavily defended target that it was believed through our intelligence. If we were able to nullify this target, we would be able to achieve some of our longer term objectives in Vietnam. And I'm not here to argue or anything about Vietnam, but rather I'm supporting talking about this one particular mission that I believe the planning and so forth has application. But we devoted probably 2.5 weeks of study to the target, and we in the cockpit have to pretty much commit to memory what the target looks like. In so what very briefly, Ed, what we do is we map study, route study before we ever get into the aircraft. And yes, we use instrumentation to help guide us, but let's just say nominally the last mile or so, we are dependent largely on our eyeballs to be exactly on target, to know exactly what the target is, how to get there, and so forth. Even a few feet off could nullify everything that we're doing. And so there was a flight of two aircraft. Then we studied for several weeks the target. We met with, and here's a part of the teamwork of precision that we had to have. We met with the intelligence people who took pictures of, and we had pictures of the target area. And the person I was flying with, there were four of us total. We studied the target area intently for about 2.5 weeks. We were dependent on the weather, that we had to be able to see the target to be able to get there at least the last mile or so. And so that was involved. The type of munitions was, we determined what the best type munition is based on the target. So we worked with our munition loaders and we made certain the munitions were in place. And the intelligence people, we continuously met with them to determine has there been any change to the enemy defenses so that we know what to expect going into the area. So we're very dependent on military intelligence to determine the accuracy of what we're seeing because we're going to plan our tactics around what we believe to be the defenses there, what we anticipate we would or at least could encounter. All of this was the precision, Ed, that we put into this mission that lasted a total of about an hour and a half. And so on the day that we decided would be the right day, the right weather, everything coming together, May 7th, I said March before, I believe it was May 17th of 1972. But we decided that, yes, everything is coming together. And so the people who made all this possible, I don't know, I'm going to guess, Ed, could have been 100 different people who contributed to the weather forecast, the intelligence, munitions loaders, the aircraft maintainers, the crew chief, and so forth, maybe 100 or so people total involved in this. And in many cases, we didn't know each other's names. We just knew that we're on the team. But we were the proverbial last 5 yards, so to speak, if I could use somewhat of a football analogy. But we were the ones who saluted as we went out to the aircraft, thanked the crew chief and those that put the aircraft together, the munitions on, and so forth. As we taxied out, there were two aircraft, and we had people lined up along the taxiway. And Ed, as you may know, and I talked a little bit about this, addressed it in the our Top Gun Mindset recording we did several weeks ago. But I gave a thumbs up to all of those that were lined along the taxiway. And that's the thumbs up for aircrew members is the signal. Thank you. Thank you. As a team member, as we are taxiing along with the cockpit canopy up, we gave everybody a thumbs up as we taxied by. And again, that's our way of saying thank you for your support.
So this mission that you're about to describe had the impact of the recent mission in Iran.
And what I'm going to give you a yes to that, Ed, that the planning, the precision of what we did for this May 17th, 1972 mission is very representative of the Operation Midnight Hammer. Now, let me just discuss a little bit about Operation Midnight Hammer. I was not a part of the planning, but I'm just going to suppose that what I'm saying now is representative of that mission. But those who are aware, at least briefly, of the B-2s that came out of Whiteman Air Force Base flew a 37-hour mission. And it was very specifically designed as the number of aircraft, two of the aircraft of which were decoys. And the mission was planned that these decoys would perform in a decoyed routine. We had to have tankers for all of the aircraft going across, the B-2s, the fighter aircraft, F-22s, F-35s, and the tankers had to be on station at a very specific time. Every aircraft had to be at a specific location on time for the refueling because the B-2s who were dropping the bombs had a precision time over target, TOT we call it, and to be there at the very specific time, everything leading up to that had to occur exactly on time. And there were however many total aircraft were involved. Let's just say I'm going to use a number 35. Let's just say there were 35 total aircraft involved. Every one of those aircraft had to be at the right time, at the precision moment to refuel, and everything had to occur at exactly the right time with the right sequence, and you had to be on time. Ed, that's a part of the discipline that is very, very prevalent with the military. Not close enough. And I mean, when your TOT is to the second, not, sometime that day, or, well, we're within a few minutes, close enough. Nope, none of that stuff applies. We have to be right there exactly on time, because if I'm off, that could adversely affect the timing of everyone who follows behind me, and everything is timed with exacting precision. So that's the type thing that we had, the planning, the camaraderie, the teamwork of going into our mission on May 17th, 1972. We took off, and in the just to use some of the terms that we used for takeoff. This is Olympia flight, ready for takeoff. Roger, Olympia flight. You are cleared for takeoff. The winds are 070, occasionally 090 at 5 knots. Cleared for takeoff. We'll welcome you back. And that was pretty close to the wording that we had in taking off. So we approached the target at low altitude. We had planned this to be traveling at anywhere between 475 to 500 knots, nautical miles per hour. And we approached the target at a higher altitude, descended to a low altitude, and we were below what we call an overcast. The weather was above us, but we at this point are traveling at almost 500 knots, nautical miles per hour, approaching the target. Ed, as we are approaching the target, maybe, I'm just going to take a guess, 2 miles out, we encountered AAA, which is known as anti-aircraft fire. Now, to those who are not familiar with anti-aircraft fire from the cockpit and so forth, traveling what may have been about 100 feet above the ground, 500 knots, we're very used to that. We're trained to do that. The best way I can describe this, Ed, to those that are not familiar with anti-aircraft fire, if you can envision yourself driving a car at 500 miles an hour, and you have fireworks that are being fired at ground level from both the left and the right front toward you, that's about the best way I can describe the anti-aircraft fire that we were encountering as we were perhaps a mile or two from the target. And I'm not trying to build this up to be anything more than what it was, but we knew that we were somehow have to get through this anti-aircraft fire. We were at a point where any evasive maneuvering could have put us in the way of, and we could have been shot down. We were both very, very fortunate. And I'd have to say, Ed, a power that's much greater than me brought us through that, and neither one of us took a hit from that anti-aircraft fire. We put the aircraft or deployed our weapons on target, and we climbed, and I would say thankfully, through what was then the overcast, because we were in the clouds, and the Vietnamese, those that were our adversaries, could not see us. And had it not been for that, we can only guess what an outcome may have been. And so we climbed above the overcast, rejoined, as we call it, the two aircraft together, and returned home. And it was about an hour and a half later that we returned home. And I'll tell you, Ed, as we approached the airdrome of our takeoff point, using aeronautical terms, we said, Olympia flight, gear down, full stop. And the tower personnel said, Olympia 1, Olympia 2, you are cleared to land. Welcome back. And Ed, that's a part of the camaraderie that we in the military have. We didn't know personally by name those in the control tower. Many of the people that made this mission possible, we didn't know the first names. We just knew that we are a team that functioned together, and it was together that we put the bombs on target. We returned, and yes, we high fived and celebrated after we got out of the aircraft with a huge thank you to all who made this possible. Now, Ed, I would say that that is very representative of the camaraderie, the teamwork we have. Quite honestly, it's trust in each other. And how applicable is this to the boardroom, to families, and so forth? It is a matter, and Ed, we've talked about this very recently and several times. It's a psychologically safe space. That's one. And what I mean by that is, should any of us, as a part of this team, have reason to believe that we could do something a little bit better to ensure the success of our mission, we felt very comfortable as a team member because our purpose, our vision, our goals are all aligned. We, this total team of intelligence, weather, maintenance, bomb loaders, everyone, we want a successful mission. And we want the aircraft, the people, everything other than the munitions to return. That did, in fact, happen. And so, Ed, I would say that with no bravado whatsoever, we in the cockpit were very, very confident everything is going to work because this team put everything together. We had confidence that, yes, my aircraft is maintained properly. Yes, the weapons will work when I choose to deploy them, which I'm in total control of that. We have every reason to believe that the landing gear is going to work when I choose it to be time to land. We have every reason to believe that everything is going to work right. And so that's not blind luck. That's a matter of the team working together. And Ed, as we work in our workplaces, as we work in our families, as we just purpose to work positively together, that's the aspect of teamwork that can work in a psychologically safe space. If we believe there's a better way of doing something to improve the success of the outcome to achieve the greater good, we know we can discuss it. And whatever you or I may be thinking as a better way may not be implemented, but doesn't mean anything other than, well, I know you fairly evaluated everything. Ed, that's a brief overview of an hour and a half mission that occurred more than 50 years ago, but is very, very representative of our military teamwork and how people can very effectively work together when we have the purpose of a purpose, vision, and goals, and how everything can work together. Ed, it's a topic that can last a long time, and it does take a while to develop this amount of camaraderie within our families, our team, developing trust, and so forth. But a lot of the attributes we have discussed that went into the workings of this mission, we have discussed in several broadcast recordings, but it's very, very representative of the military. So, Ed, that's a part of what we are about.
Well, I thank you very much for sharing such detail. And let's chat, if we can, about applications to uh, business
Certainly.
and having a game plan to achieve a desired goal and
Yes.
an objective. So uh, when you're training, how do you convey that uh, prep that you've just described and the mindset? How do you convey that to in a business environment where there is it possible? I'm just going to get right to it. Is it possible to have that without the discipline enforcement over here, up here, always in mind as you would in the military. Uh, and so people are really motivated to do exactly what you were just describing.
And Ed, I think the short answer to your question is yes, it is possible. Now, we in the military pledge to support the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And we raise our right hand and we pledge to do that. That is representative of values. And I believe, Ed, in the context of business, you want to have the right people in place. You want to have the right people on your team. And in the context of purpose, vision, and goals, you want to have people who share your values. That is, can we be aligned? And quite honestly, Ed, I need to, if I'm the team lead, CEO, wherever I am, if I'm the person who's leading whatever I'm doing, I need to know who I am. I need to know what my strengths are, weaknesses. And Ed, when I talk with you, I want to find the right people who complement my weaknesses. And I need the courage to be able to express to you, I'm not as good in whatever trait it is. And I need people on my team who complement me because we're talking about the total team. And so, Ed, I would ask you, and quite honestly, I would want for you to take a personality assessment to clearly identify your strengths. And through that, we can be assured that your strengths would complement mine. Now, as far as values, we may or may not be able to assess that through any sort of a personality assessment, but I do want to know your values. And I hope I can clearly identify your values through some open ended questions in the interview process. And so, Ed, when I feel I know your values, you know my values, those of the total team, let's say the company, what are the values on which we hire people? What are the foundational principles on which we operate? If we have total alignment with that, then I do believe that we can have a very functional, trustworthy team. But we need to ensure, I believe, fundamentally, we have those with the right values. Then they do want to contribute to the greater good of the company.
Well, that's challenging, and I would imagine that you've had to make some tough decisions along the way.
Well, and there are times, Ed, we need to make tough decisions. And there's some times let's say a person interviewed well, but we find that, well, it appears your values, your work ethic are not aligned with those of the company. And I'm not the kind of person that I want to say just farewell. No, if you prove yourself to be worthy, but maybe a better company would be more suited to you, I want to help you find a better location. But Ed, again, I want to do the best I can to tell you exactly what our company is, what we represent. If we have a very specified community outreach, can you support that? And can you identify with the values of my company? And I would give you the opportunity to explain how you do that. But it's an open-ended conversation, and so I want to be discerning that I can determine if you share the values, and if we do share the values, there's a pretty good chance, Ed, that you will want to stay with me. I want to stay with you for as long as things work out. And yes, the 50 years of the employment, the gold watch, are pretty much in the past. But at least I would hope that I would be able to offer you the opportunity to be with me, my company, as long as you would choose to be. So that's a lot of what I represent.
Well, that's clear, very clear. And um, that's how you earn, not you, but well, people earn loyalty, earn reward.
And see, and no, that's exactly what it is. And you and I and other forums have talked very, very much about projecting care. And I can verbalize it, but not have it projected. I may not personify what my words are, but when my words and my character personify the fact that I do care, that to me is a universal language. Even if I don't speak your native language, I believe you will be able to discern from me if I do in fact care. In the context of remote employment and so forth, we have got to project the fact that we do care about you, even if you're not geographically, physically co-located with me. I need to project to you, I do in fact care about you. And it's not that I'm going to be over the shouldering you. I'm not going to micromanage you at all, but I want you to know I care about you. And I do in fact care about your family. And so I'm the kind of person, Ed, I'll never intrude on the privacy of your family, but I do know the continuum between family and work, and I want to do everything I can to be available to you and the family to help you overcome whatever situations you may be encountering in the family without over personalizing things. But I want to be available to you because to use somewhat of a trite cliche, yep, family. And but it's all about shared values. And that's what we're about, Ed.
It's very cool, and I really enjoyed this conversation with you. Uh, and now I'd like to turn to something similar, but in business, you know, doing things remotely a lot. What I've learned about myself and about what to do on TV, on this little green light looking at me for 5 years now, more than 5 years, 5.5, and more than 1,000 productions according to YouTube, and they're all listed there showing, uh, is creating an environment of trust on camera, which is really
Mhm.
difficult for a lot of
Yes.
people to do. And I'm doing things differently today than I did 5 years ago on camera. I think I had the same approach and same attitude, but the sequential timing of what not to say or what not to do while on camera, and particularly in conversations, that has been learned. Uh, I didn't know back then, or even 2 years ago, what I know today as a result of the self-imposed training I've I've learned, uh, and the several shows that we've done together, and some with some other people involved periodically. Everything has been a learning experience for me and a confidence build for me, and I thank you. So, what I want to do going forward is to, just so you know, uh, work every day with people on a program to get as many programs produced as possible. Uh, the cost is really low to produce this. I love doing it. I know how to do this. And I have embarked on a media campaign just starting yesterday, actually prior, but really with energy starting yesterday, of inviting people to a 20-minute experience interview with me on about their brands. And I take this from Philip Berry, who's a trusted advisor to me for years. Um, the professional brand, in other words, what the company products are, the company culture, and the personal brand of how I execute that. and how they mesh together. And that's the secret sauce to this program, of people being comfortable enough to express themselves just like you did, and not in a threatening manner, but in how you do it. That's all there is to it. The camera doesn't lie, it doesn't hide things. And
Mhm.
um, so I just want to say thank you again for being on the several programs when there's other people involved, and of course, one-on-one.
No, thank you, Ed. I appreciate that. I do believe your effectiveness, your brand is being genuine. And I use the expression being appropriately vulnerable. And I also use the expression, Ed, that if, as you and I are, we're always learning, we're always improving, our worst broadcast, our worst conversation will be the one we just had because we're always getting better. Marty and I started a podcast about 3 years ago, and I wouldn't even want to listen to the first ones. I just think it'd be so terrible. It would be just nauseating almost to listen to them. But with every podcast, which for us is about 30 minutes, we have improved. We believe we've gotten better. Now, in the context of being appropriately vulnerable, yep, we have all made mistakes. We're going to fail forward, and I don't mind telling you that I have the confidence that, yep, I failed at, I did wrong. That was not a good decision, but here's how I recovered from it. And so Ed, if we come across too perfect, some people would say that, well, gosh, I could never emulate that. I can't be as good as Ed. And but yet, if we are very genuine with ourselves, I can tell you in early life, I could never have had the conversation. If I was now what I was then, I'd never be able to have the conversation I'm having with you right now because I didn't have any confidence at all. Another story for another time, maybe. But I think it's appropriate to be appropriately vulnerable. That yep, I used to be, been there, done that type thing. But hey, we're always looking for ways to get better, people to surround ourselves with. And you're that kind of person, Ed. Surround yourself with the Ed Cohens of the world.
Yes, so nice. So as we come to a close here in the next few minutes, one of my customers and friends, um, and we've never met in person, it's always been on screen, is a younger woman who's European, and she helps mainly other women deal with this thing called the imposter
Yes.
syndrome about some people, and it's not just women. Even I, if you can believe it, had some kind of issue with, do I, am I that person? Can I do this? Maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should, and there's this thing in there talking. So she makes a podcast series all about this thing. And so anyway, people have that. But in the military, how do you, how do Air Force pilots, uh, they just don't come in off the street. They're rigorously trained and vetted before they're allowed to fly a plane, right? Never mind being a team such as yours, uh, where it's life threatening, and you better be at the top. Anyway, in business, it's not that easy. I mean, nothing's easy,
Well,
but
in some degree,
there
yes.
has to be some kind of prep.
No, you're right. In the military flying, that there's some people that wash out early. We call it washout rate.
Wash
It
out.
you have X number apply, they're accepted, but only let's just say 50% will graduate. And so the washout rate, for whatever reason, boy, I thought I'd be able to fly. I thought I'd be able to think this way and so forth, but nope, things didn't work out right. That'll happen in business sometimes that I thought I hired the right person. I thought that the interview went very well and everything seemed to be lined up right. And you do talk about the mask that I refer to frequently, the imposter syndrome, that I can maybe put on a false mask that I am somebody. I now um, uh, I'll look good at the interview, let's say. But then later you find out that, well, no. And so I believe, Ed, that's a part of the interview process. How can I find out who the real Ron Cooper is? Yeah, he prepared for the interview and so forth and so on, but is he the real person we need? Do your values align with? Are you totally genuine, or can I see through any facade that maybe you're projecting, the imposter syndrome, the masking, and so forth? Yeah, that's a part of the interview process. It takes a while to learn. And how can you determine who that real person is? But now there are some people whose skill sets, whose values are right, but hey, I've got a personal problem, and oh gosh, I don't know if I can discuss this with you, Ed. But if you believe that person is worth keeping on, you want to develop the confidence, the trust. You want to have that psychologically safe space to where the person will feel comfortable divulging to you. And you may not be the best person to help them through whatever they're experiencing, but at least you can put them in contact with someone who is. But do you have the confidence in yourself? Do they have the confidence and loyalty in you that, Ed, I believe you care enough that if I tell you about this, you could help me through it, and my job is not at risk? A long answer, Ed, but that's all a part of what I believe to be very consummate teamwork, and the loyalty, the retention, and all of that follows.
Bravo. A great show. Thank you, Ron Cooper.
Thank you,
Uh,
Ed. Always appreciate being with you.
so the Cooper culture, and what's the website?
Thank you. It is www.thecooperculture, TheCooperCulture.com. Go there, you'll learn more about us, and we look forward to chatting with you. And we do want to partner with you to help you create and sustain the culture where everyone gets along. We have high retention rates. We're loyal to each other, and we freely discuss whatever will be in the long term good of each one of us.
Amen. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Ed. You too.
Thanks. Thank you.